Hello and welcome. If you're new here, my name is Mina. I like to talk about books and I have brought some books to talk about. Today I'm going to be talking about some of the books that have made it into my priority winter TBR. I believe I have 10 books. 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yes, I have 10 books. It wasn't planned that way. I think I had 11 and then I got rid of one. But these are all books that I have delayed for some reason, or no, pretty much just that. I have mostly just delayed these for some reason or another. Normally just an injury to myself. I am genuinely looking forward to reading all of these. That's why they're in the priority. That being said, let's get into it. Got my trusty cup of tea with me. Oh yeah, it's chamomile today. I probably should have put these in the order that I was going to talk about them before I started the video, but I haven't, and I'm going to live with that consequence. First up, for my winter TBR, I have A Dark Shade of Magic by V. Schwab. Why haven't I read this book yet? I can't tell you. Actually, I can tell you. So I bought this book earlier this year, and I have genuinely been really looking forward to reading it. However, I have been sort of tied up in other fantasy series, and the big one is that I decided to try and start the Wheel of Time series, which are chunky boys, and I didn't want to tie myself up into too many fantasy series at once because I'd be swip-swapping between them, or I wouldn't be able to give them the attention that they really deserve. That being said, I have stopped about 30 pages into book 3 of the Wheel of Time. I am coming back to it. I am coming back. I just hit a bit of a fantasy slump at the time, and the last thing you need during a fantasy slump is big, epic fantasy book. But I'm coming back. So yeah, I'm really excited to start A Dark Shade of Magic. I will read it this winter. I have managed to go this entire time without reading a single V.E. Schwab book. I have never read a V.E. Schwab book, and that ends this winter. I'm not really going to talk about what this book is about. I feel like there will be other people who have done that. If you don't know what this book is about, I will link all of the Goodreads for all of these books in my description, and that way, if there's something I haven't covered enough, because I'm just yapping, then you can check out what the book is actually about there. Another book that I'm excited to read that's pretty relevant at the moment, and you'll know why, is Andy Weir's Project Hail Mary. I really want to read this before the film comes out. I think it comes out March 26th, give or take a day or two. Brackets. In the UK, I don't know why films come out differently in like the US and Europe, but they do. I've already had a part of this spoiled for me because of the trailers that I watched when I was in the cinema. I think I was watching Fantastic Four. I'm trying to forget that. It's pretty difficult to forget. If you know what I'm talking about, you know what it is. I'm not going to say it in case some lucky person has managed to completely avoid that spoiler. But this book is about a man who has gone up to space with a couple of other people to try this like last desperate attempt to save mankind. Except when he wakes up from his cryo sleep, he is the only survivor, and it's about him in space basically trying to save the world. Other than that, and the spoiler that I know, I don't really know much about this book, but I've been trying to read more sci-fi because I get so fancy, and then I get burnt out. And I do love sci-fi. I do. And hopefully I'm going to love this. The next book I want to talk about is one that I actually got from a mystery book box that tries to promote lesser known books. So this is actually the book that has the least amount of reviews on Goodreads out of the ones that I have put on my priority TBR. It's called Observer. It is by 2 authors, and one of them's like this really big scientist. Yeah, there's by 2 authors. Robert Lanza, who is big science man. He was on the top 100 most influential in 2015, I think. Don't quote me on the year, but big important science man doing big important science things. And Nancy Kress, who is a sci-fi author. So these 2 people have come together to make a pretty well appreciated gem of a book, I say with hope. It has 3,000 reviews on Goodreads, and I believe the rating was 4 stars, so for a smaller book with not many ratings, that was a really good rating. It's got one of those backs, and hardcovers really get me with these. It's got one of those backs that tells you absolutely nothing about the book. It really winds me up. I don't know why it winds me up so much, because it's always just inside. Yes, it is just there. Honestly, I'm so dramatic sometimes. So this book is about a woman whose career ends when she accuses a supervisor or manager of sexual misconduct, and everything on Twitter blows up and she loses her job. I believe she has a disabled family member, so she's really keen to get back into work so that she can support them. I believe it's her sister's child which is disabled, but her sister doesn't make very much money. So she takes up this strange proposal from her great uncle, who is this big Nobel Prize winning scientist. Here's a quote that's in the blurb, slightly quoted. The great uncle is called Sam Watkins. Sam has gone far beyond curing the body to develop a technology that could solve the riddle of mortality for the soul. From what I've heard in reviews, it's a pretty educational read in that it's really thought-provoking, but it's really well written and really well engaging, and there are characters that people care about. So I'm really hoping this is good. I do like a book that makes me think and makes me learn things, and I like a little bit of philosophy, and it seems like this book might dip its toes into the philosophy of, if we can with science, does that mean we should? So this might be my next read. I'm not sure. I'm currently on Yellow Face, so I want something a bit different, and this would be different. So the next book I have delayed for ages is Paladins Grace by T. Kingfisher. I bought this ages ago. I bought this because I read Of Deeds Most Valiant. I have it. Yes, I read this book, Of Deeds Most Valiant by Sarah K.L. Wilson, which was about paladins and is hands down one of the best and most beautiful indie books that I've read. It's set over a really short time frame. The characters are just so real and so beautiful and so funny. I am going to make a different video where I just absolutely rave about this book. Yeah, that's the stuff. But that's not this video, so I'm going to put this book down now. Probably. Yes, so I really wanted to read more about paladins, and this book, from the blurb where it's this paladin whose patron, his god, died like 3 years ago, so I assume that means he does not have any powers or abilities or gifts. Can I say that? He's sort of like... I'm not going to say that. Let me think of a different way to word that. He's like a horse without legs. I'm hoping this will be a clumsy, awkward love story where he finds himself and he picks himself up and he finds a reason to live again. There is a woman called Grace. Stephen, the paladin, saves Grace from some sort of event. Some ruffians get involved, and they must navigate a web of treachery and poisoners while a cryptic killer stalks one step behind. So it seems like a cozy-ish fantasy thriller romance, which is a lot of words, but I keep putting it off because I think I'm really going to enjoy it, and with the stack that I've got, I need a little bit more light-hearted, gentle coziness, and the book with the killer one step behind might just do that. Maybe I need a backup cozy book. Going completely the other direction to the coziness, we have Into the Drowning Deep by Mira Grant. In this book, a film crew goes missing, going to film a mockumentary about the Mariana Trench. Yeah, about the Mariana Trench. And all of them were lost to sea. And a couple years later, there's a group of explorers that get together to go investigate what actually happened, because nobody knows. One of nature's random tragedies. But this book is about what actually happened, and maybe there is something in the deep. I'm really hoping that this goes the route of evil killer mermaids, or evil killer sirens, or something like that, because I do like crazy, murderous, rage-filled women. And I remember reading a lot of mermaid books when I was younger, like Emily Winsnap. I haven't thought about Emily Winsnap in a long time. Probably like 7 the last time I thought about Emily Winsnap. And yeah, I would just like something a little bit more, you know? I don't even know what that means. I don't know how you're supposed to know what that means. But yes, killer mermaids, hopefully. I believe the genres listed on this on Goodreads are horror fantasy, so we'll just have to see. I've been putting off this. I was going to read it for Halloween or for that sort of time. Can't remember what I was reading around then. I believe it was maybe the Red Rising trilogy, which is very different to a horror book. Of course, I have to include some of my bread and butter, which is East Asian, especially Chinese inspired historical fantasy. It's a bit of a mouthful. I love this genre. I love this genre so much. It's just so beautiful to me. And there is always a little element of wonder when it's a culture that is so different to your own. So here we have The Night Ends with Fire, which is a Mulan retelling. It is by K. Exon. There is this character called Meilin. Meilin is married off to this guy, and she's like, ew no, he's actually really mean and rude and gross. So she goes in her father's place to fight in a war. Ho ho ho, there's a guy there, but she's pretending to be a boy. What's gonna happen? Are they gonna fall in love? Maybe, but probably surrounded by a lot of death and trauma. Sounds lovely. There might be dragons in it as well, which is always a plus. I'm gonna add this to my Chinese-inspired history lot. It's going in there. The next book that I have did really, really well a few years ago. It's The Ministry of Time, which is about a woman who works for this agency where she supports people that have been yoinked from time, assimilating themselves into the modern day. It's a love story between a Victorian commander, an explorer man, and this modern day woman that's helping him get used to life. I believe I got it half priced, or at least whatever else I bought with it I got half price, which is a plus. Always available for bargains. I'm hoping it's funny, I'm hoping it's sweet, I'm hoping he gets over all of the trauma that this experience is going to give him, quite frankly. And I hope that the romance isn't problematic in the way that I think he would develop a reliance on the person that he's with when he first comes into this situation. He's very vulnerable. I hope that the relationship and the romance skirts that, or finds a way where it doesn't seem low-key abusive, low-key with a power dynamic. I shuffled through all of the colours and I decided that the one that I wanted was the orange and blue. I believe there are yellows and pinks as well. I think this one was right at the bottom. I just like this colour combo the most. Tea break! Adding on to the sci-fi books that I'm going to read, another one of the smaller books on my list, not that small though, I think it's got 12,000 reviews still, at least 12,000 reviews, it might be 17, is Nod by Adrian Barnes. Nod is about what would happen if all of a sudden 99.999% of people across the world were incapable of sleeping, and the rest could sleep, but when they slept they all shared the same dream. It's very dystopian sounding, very zombie apocalypse almost sounding. Think about how you get when you're really tired and it's been a couple of days of poor sleep and you're sort of on autopilot. Imagine that, but 15 days. You'd be crazy. You'd be out of it. I'm convinced I would genuinely just suddenly crave human flesh. So this book is about a couple, and in the couple, one of them can sleep and one of them can't, and it's about the fallout across the world and I believe Vancouver. and it shows how this new society arises out of such a catastrophic global event. It's not a very long book, it's only like 250 pages long, so it's not going to be a long one, but I hope it's going to be one with a lot of impact. I really like dystopian books, and I feel like I haven't seen as many dystopian books recently, but this definitely falls in the category of probably horror dystopian sci-fi. So that's adding on to all of the sci-fi stuff that I have. The last two books that I have to talk about aren't sci-fi. We have a Brandon Sanderson book, which I have been hoarding since June. My boyfriend got it for me, but it's one of those books that I know I'm going to absolutely love. I believe it's going to be art. It's going to make me feel things. It's going to be so beautiful to me that I keep putting it off because I'm like, well, I've got that in the bank and I know I'm going to love that. So I'll read it a little bit later. I just keep pushing it back like that. It has to end. I have to read the books that I'm excited to read. And for that reason, I have added Yumi and the Nightmare Painter to this list. I mean, look at that cover. That's gorgeous. Gorgeous. So this is one of Brandon Sanderson's moves a little bit more into the romance space. I don't know how much romance is going to be in it. I do think it's going to be mostly fantasy, maybe a little bit of mystery, but romance is one of the tagged genres. So I'm interested to see how he uses that in a book that's a little bit more romance-based. Obviously, there are slight romance subplots throughout the Mistborn trilogy, which I have read, and a little bit of romance in the Reckoners trilogy, but neither of those were too strong, and I really did like Vin and Ellen's connection, but no one sits down and says that Mistborn is a romance trilogy. So I'm curious to see what kind of romance counts as romance for Brandon Sanderson. I'm just going to read the blurb for this one because I think any way that I describe it, it's going to take away the impact of the imagery and why I think this book is going to be art. There is a world, one of endless night, surrounded by even deeper darkness, filled with nightmares come to life, twisted shapes that slink to windows and ease open doors, sliding across floors to look down on helpless faces. There is another world, a bright world, so bright it burns, filled with stacked stones that call forth miracles, raised by calloused hands that tremble in their work, drained with each stone lifted, settled, lifted again. Between these worlds two souls connect, collide, entwine. A bridge, a path, a road to both worlds changing forever, or their complete destruction. So it's the world, to me, between nightmares and dreams. I'm honestly not sure, but I'm really looking forward to finding out. This book is also really well rated. I believe it's got over 100,000 reviews and it's at like 4.46 or something in terms of ratings. It has majority 5-star ratings and I'm hoping to be one of them. I don't give out 5 stars lightly. I use them sparingly. I think this year I've maybe given out 2 or 3 5 stars, and I would love for this to be another one. And for my final book on my list, I have by Lucy Rose, The Lamb. This book is about a mother and a daughter that live in the woods. The mother lets in weary travelers and then they eat them. So already, I love that. I don't think I've read any cannibal horror, and I know that this book is using cannibalism as a metaphor for love and greed, and I think that's really beautiful. I absolutely love the visceral body horror used with themes of love and obsession. I know that I love it because I read Don't Let the Forest In, and that is 100% one of the best books I've read this year, probably one of the best books I've read ever. It's beautiful. It's disgustingly beautiful. I believe there's a quote that talks about wanting to like pry apart his lover's ribs so that he could just squeeze on in there or like scoop out and eat parts of his lung. And on paper, like that sounds horrible, doesn't it? That's awful. But just the obsession and the compulsion and using body imagery, I love it. So I'm really hoping that I love this because this is basically a whole book on using that as a metaphor for love and complexity. and how the mother-daughter relationship changes once a third party enters. I also believe that this is quite a feminist piece. I think a lot of the characters are women in it, and it explores women's emotions and women's rage and need for love. And so I'm really looking forward to reading a little bit more on that side. I believe this is Lucy Rose's debut novel, so I'm hoping that it's really good, and then I have an author I can follow from the beginning. That would be really nice. So yes, those are all of the books that I will be hopefully reading throughout winter. Winter meaning December to February, because I don't like to pin myself down into reading things too much. I tend to read quite a lot, so I want enough room to read whatever I want in between. If I randomly fancy reading, I don't know, a thriller or a sports romance or something, I want to be able to fit that in. I don't want to feel pressure to get all of these books done, but I do need a nudge in the right direction. And now I want to read all of them right now after talking about them to myself for the last hour. But anyway, let me know if you've read any of these books, if you think I should read any of these books. Don't tell me that. I know I should read those books. I don't need you to tell me that. And let me know what books you plan on reading this winter. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!